So this is Coach Justin with Element 5 in Springfield. Going to do some basic gi Jiu-Jitsu with you today. Today we're going to go over some mount positions and transitions. Last week we did bottom mount, and sorry I've been MIA the past couple of days. Just had a little health thing inside the family, so so glad I can get back at it today. So let's get started. So when we're talking about mount, just as a review, we are talking about when you are straddling on top of somebody and in a fairly dominant position. So if your opponent's on the ground, you're anywhere like this, this is considered the mount position. Okay. Now, a lot of the mount position is reactionary. Okay, meaning that there are only a couple of things you can really do without creating a scenario for your opponent. It's very uncomfortable for the person when you're on top, but also it requires you to have a good sense of balance here because it is a very you're in line with your opponent. Now, your opponent can't use their legs against you, but since you're sitting on top of them, you know, like we talked about last week, if you bump from your feet, you can go flying forward if you don't have a good strong position. And if I'm up here like this isn't really like a very strong position. I want to be in a position to where I can either strike if that's my goal, or if it's just strictly jiu-jitsu, it's to control the base until I can set up for a better position. And most better positions are up a little bit higher, but sometimes you don't start up a little bit high. Okay, sometimes we want our opponent to react to our lower positions. So the first thing we're going to talk about here today is the skydive position. Okay, so the skydive position, this is something we've talked about before last week, but to get everybody on the same page, it's where you take your feet and you see how I'm hooking them inside my opponent's legs like this. All right, this is the first step. Now from here, they don't have any control with their legs. And so it's an arm battle. Guess who wins an arm battle? The person who's got gravity. That's me. I'm the guy on top. I'm the guy who's using gravity to force my opponent to do whatever I want him to do, or at least attempt to do what I want him to do. So the skydive here is an important part. Now, if this doesn't create enough pressure for your opponent, because sometimes your opponents can take a lot of pressure, you can add to this pressure simply by letting your hands up and driving with your hips. This is actually the more of the skydive position. So notice, like, I'm riding on top of them. My hips are driving real hard down into my opponent, like so. And when I've got weight on my hands, if I keep my hands here, so if I take my hands off, now all of my weight's on top of my opponent, and his legs are in the air, so he can't put any weight on his feet. It's very uncomfortable for my opponent. So one of two things happen here. Your opponent tries to push on you, and if they push high, that's nice, because then you can make your move to your attack. All right, but if they push low, then I got to deal with that. So let's start with the easy one. Let's say they push high. So sometimes your opponent will push up here on your chest because that's the closest thing to their arms, and most people think that's where I need to push. I need to push off my chest. So they need to push off their chest. So when they do that, their arms are up here like this, it's real easy to pick a hand, and usually I like to go this side, and then swing it over to one side like this and capture that hand so I can set up for an arm triangle on this side. Okay? It's one of the moves that I would do if my opponent reacted that way. Some opponents don't react that way though. So, but just assuming that you start off with your opponent who does. Okay, and we will go over the arm triangle since we haven't gone over that in a while. But so I'm skydiving on my opponent. I'm here. My opponent decides to push up on my chest. So they've extended themselves out to push me here. And then once they push me here, I can push that arm over and then get this head inside here like this. And now I'm setting up for my arm triangle. Okay? So that's one way that I could set up. Now another way I can set up for my arm triangle, which is a choke submission, for those of you who don't know, is if my opponent goes low down to my hips. Now that's the correct thing to do. If you're in a skydive position, going down to my hips here to push me off and manipulating your feet at the same time, that's going to be what you want to do, because I'm already low on your hips. All right, I don't have control of this upper part. I have control of this lower part. So the best thing to do is actually just to keep moving me down the lower part. So what can happen is they get their feet out a little bit here like this, and they push me down using lower attacks like this. So they're here down on my hips, and as they're pushing on my hips, I'm being pushed down their hips like this, and they're getting out. Okay, that's a good way to escape this specific move. So what I'm going to do in response to that, because like I said, this is all about creating response. So I've skydived. I'm going to start by neutralizing that defense by praying with my feet. So I'll put my feet together like this. Takes the pressure off the inside of the legs, but now they can't get their feet out like that. If I go like this, it takes a lot more finagling, or even if I cross my feet together, it takes a little more finagling. But I will also say that that could potentially lead to them getting out. So if you, in the same kind of way, because you're committing. You know, if I'm here, I can bring my legs back in if I need to, right? But if I'm here and my feet are together, then I can squeeze. I can actually squeeze my legs together while I'm fighting instead of stretching them out. But I'm locked down here now. So I can't do anything until I've come up with something down here. And by then, depending on your opponent, they might have wiggled out by then. So, like I said, this is all a game of reactions and feelings, especially when you're on top. But you're the aggressor in this scenario, okay? So my opponent decides he's going to push down on my hip, try to push himself out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go from that skydive position. His hand goes in here, and I'm going to pop my hand down in here like this, all right? And look how I'm leaning to the left. If I stay here and I try to do this, he's going to bridge and roll me over that side. So I'm going to go out to the side like this, and I'm going to stay low on this left side, and I'm going to bring this hand down till I can get my fingers to the mat like this. And I'm going to slowly walk my arm up the mat like this. And you'll notice as I do this, his arm, see, I can pull even just a little finger at a time. His arm starts to come up. When his arm's up here, when your opponent's arm's up higher, now I can go back to that headlock, grab that arm like this. Okay, grab that arm about mid bicep, I'd say. And then once I'm here, I take the chin, I push, I get the head past, and I go for my arm triangle. All right, so one more time. I'm skydiving. He goes to push my hips, okay? And if he's doing it right, his elbow will flare just a little bit. Some guys can get real tight in here. But if you go to the side like this, get that angle and start driving in, now he's losing pressure against my hip. I come out, get my hand to the mat. Once it's here, then I can start coming up a little high, using my elbow to sort of crank it out, and then I can get the hand around the head, grab the arm, chin pushes on the arm until I get my position, and then I go for my arm triangle. Okay? So now, if neither of those are reaction that your opponent does, all right, this is the third potential reaction from the skydive position, because this whole position is about attacks and submissions, all right? His only motivation here is to escape, except for, like I showed last week, there's like one or two moves that if you're not careful, your opponent could do. But his whole motivation is to try to escape or try to at least get you out from underneath or get out from underneath you. So in the process, you're setting up submissions everywhere you go, everywhere you move, everywhere you turn, everywhere you look, trying to set up submissions. So if you get here and your opponent decides they're not going to attack you, okay, they're not going to do anything, they're going to be real tight. So ideally, if you're defending and you're not susceptible to skydive pressure, you've had it before, you're like, this is old hat, whatever, most people will do this, all right? The main reason to do this is because you're fighting chokes, okay? Fighting chokes, especially chokes around the collar, okay? But we have our special Ezekiel choke, which we don't need the collar for, all right? So remember, the Ezekiel choke works like this. So I'm here, my opponent's in tight, so what I'm gonna do then is I'm skydiving, right? I'm gonna go, remember if I take this post off, right? And then that's a way that he can roll me. So I'm going to skydive and I'm going to turn my body over this way and I'm going to grab their head like this. Now I'm literally like one step away. Grab my sleeve, get it inside. I can do knuckle, can drive the knuckle, shoot this over, do the choke. I went over the Ezekiel choke last week. So if you want to learn about that, that's where you'll want to watch my videos from last week. The Ezekiel choke from Mount, okay? And they are all on YouTube as of now, okay? So yeah, so that's a good place for your Ezekiel choke, okay? There are other options, obviously. The Americana is an option if they get their arms in a weird way, you know, if they start trying to push on you and you decide I'm gonna go Americana, boom, there's the Americana there. Boom, there's the Americana there. I mean, there's so many attacks you can do. The few attacks that you can do from this position, that you can't do from this position that you would think are like arm bars in this exact position, and Moras from this exact position. Those require you to be up a little bit higher, all right? So before we go into the arm triangle defense, I want to talk about the opposite, all right? So you've just mounted your opponent, okay, you've just swung to mount, and they do their due diligence, all right? This is the reactionary move. This is the, for you elemental people, this is our water reaction to a move, okay? As you're flowing with your opponent's movements. So most of the time, what your opponent's gonna do is he's gonna turn to push this knee down, or one of these knees down. And so you have to be ready to react to that movement, okay? So you just mounted your opponent. His arms are down here like this. He's gonna push on this knee correctly, except he misses one thing. He misses this control of this hip right here, all right? So he goes to push on you, and he turns, and as he turns, you're gonna bring this knee up, and you're gonna slide up into our triple threat position. Okay. All right, which looks like this. All right, this is a very strong position. I have this arm I can attack. I have a few chokes I can attack. I can take the back. I can do an arm bar. There's lots of positions, lots of things that I can do from here. But it requires you to move with your opponent, but you're still connected to your opponent. Okay? So one more time. I just did mount. He goes to push, and he's already turning. Now, if I can't skydive now, he's already turned. This leg's already flat on the mat. I don't have that hook there. This bottom leg is flat on the mat because he's turned, right? So leg's flat on the mat, he's turned. So if I'm here, this isn't good for me. So what I'm gonna do then is I'm going to slide up, and I'm going to sit on my opponent like this. Even better would be head on the thigh right here. If I pulled this arm up and got this really up underneath here, that's a real strong position as well. That's a variation of this position called the S mount. But the foot up like this is, like I said, it's called a triple threat because it doesn't lock us in one direction or the other. Now, just to review what you do from here, because again, I went over a triple threat last week, and I'll just go over it again. So if I'm here and my opponent does nothing, okay, they do nothing. So I'm gonna hook this head, and there are two ways that you can hook this head. All right, either you can hook with the far side, or with the what I call the far side because it's farthest away from the center. You can hook with the far side and reach back and grab the pants, and then instead of going to your back to armbar, you're gonna bring this knee up to the head like this, and you're gonna extend your hips like so, and that's gonna do the armbar for you. All right. Now, if there are reactions to that specific move, if you do it that way, so you have to be prepared to play with that a little bit. And if I were you, to help with some of these reactions, this back top leg, I would try to keep that back top leg behind the other one before you go for this move. Because if you do, you can press on it, and then they can't come up to their knees. If they're here like this, and I grab this arm and I start to go right here, they can come up to their knees, right? And then I have a different battle. I'm on a weird turtle side thing. It is possible to finish from there, but it's not what I really want. I really want to finish from this position. So if they start to look like they're going this way, you can actually grab their pants and pull them back and pin the one leg behind the other. All right, or even spider web through the legs. So like go through the legs like this. If they look like they're like, even if you put this here, so you want to be able to control this leg when you're doing this move. All right, or you want to control the head. So this is another option for people who are doing arm bars, right? And I'll tell you why I don't like this option for beginners, because it puts you in the regular arm bar position. So if I put my hand here like this, and I wrap this arm, and I go to step over, now I'm in the arm bar position. I roll back, and I go to finish. Except now I'm on my back. So if I don't know how to do this correctly, then they're going to possibly be able to get out. And now I'm on my back, and now I'm worse than I was. You know, you can lose points in a match this way. You could even potentially lose this way because now you're on your back. So I like to go for a little more of a sure thing if I'm good in the position. All right. So, one more time for that first move in that triple threat position. We just did mount. As we're doing mount, he turns. He's going to push that foot down. So I swing this foot up high. When he tries to push that leg down, and I come up, then I'm going to grab this arm, and I might weave in between. You can't see that very well. All right, I might weave in between the legs to keep him from coming up. Now, thing to remember, if I grab this leg, this bottom leg, and try to pin it, it doesn't matter, because he's going to throw this leg over, and as he does, his hips are going to shift. He's going to go belly down. And I didn't stop anything, okay? But if I go inside with the hook, now I'm blocking that outside leg, and I can grab this arm, come up here, and finish from there. Okay? So that is one possible position, depending on what you intend to do. Now, let's say this guy's arm is real tight, and you can't hook it. You can get your hand inside, but you can't hook it. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take this hand, this underhand that was hooking, okay, it's real tight here. I'm going to tighten his lapel. This is because I'm going to do a choke now. All right, so I'm going to do a choke. and the choke comes here and down. I'm going to grab the lapel like this. All right, so one more time. This goes tight, hand comes in, and I grab. Now there's step one. All right, now I have two options here because it's such a dangerous position that I'm in. All right, my option number one is I can come behind the arm like this, and I can finish the choke this way. All right, but that's if this arm is up. If that arm is down, I'm not going to be able to finish the choke this way. So I'm actually going to grab the pants like so, and I'm going to do what's called a bow and arrow choke. All right, so from here, I grab the pants, I got this here like this. I'm going to get this knee either in his back, or I might even get it over his head. There's a few real special ways to finish this. But essentially what you're doing, what I would do is I would just come around like this, grabbing these pants like so, and then I just extend the body out using this leg here. Now, like I said, sometimes that doesn't work. So there are other things you can do, like I said, putting the knee in behind the back, bringing the leg over the head. You could even potentially get this leg over this arm here and finish it that way. So that's the thing you have to worry about. And that's a bow and arrow choke. And we're going to do back defenses next week. So next week we'll talk about what your mindset should be in the potentiality of back attacks. All right. But then the third thing is you're just going to take the back. So sometimes when your opponent, when you do this adjustment here, and your opponent, you get to here like this, a lot of times your opponent will just keep rolling up before you have a chance to do anything and take their chance in a back take sort of position. All right, so it was like this. So I'll just show you from my position because these bobs are a little hard to work with in this way. So if I'm here, right, my opponent goes for the step over, and I know the step over is coming. I'm going to turn instantly, and I'm going to start to push, right? So he's going to bring his leg up, and his other leg comes from behind me. So he's got a leg draped right here, just like I did on Bob. But instead of stopping here, right, a lot of people will come up to their knees. So instantly I've pushed, they come up, and I go, boom, right up to my knees. But see, Bob's still got his hook in, right? So he's got his hook in, and once he's got his hook in, he grabs around my body, this hook inside, and he's going to roll me back the other way. So imagine he's on my body, he's on my back, he's got this hook in, he reaches around my body, he leans backwards, chest to chest, leans backwards, so I fall this way, he rolls me this way until I get here, and then he throws the other hook in. Now, I'm in a whole different battle. Okay, so that's your third potential option from there. Two of them are finishes. One of them is a good transition for the position. And you'll notice that almost everything I've talked about so far has led to some sort of finish. All right, and that's why the mount position is very dangerous. Okay, it's very aggressive. But just like with everything that's aggressive, it's also difficult to balance correctly. So if you're willing to take steps back to learn how to take steps forward, it's like stumbling, like if you're going up a hill and you fall, you don't just usually fall, you actually fall and roll down a little bit. That's kind of like what learning mount is like. But it's a very important position because you have to understand both sides of the coin in order to be proficient at both attacks and defenses, because you need to know the thoughts behind both sides of the coin and how to neutralize those attacks. All right, so for me personally, I like the skydive move just because as a bigger person, I like to use that to control a little bit more. And so So if you go into that other position, the triple threat position, that is, like I said, it's the first because of the pressure you're creating and whatnot. The skydive move is kind of like an earth elemental style move, and again, if you've watched my videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then the sit up is, like I said, it's more fluid and it has more to do with your opponent's reaction. So it's more water based instead of pressure based. You're more fluid and what you can do. So keeping those two things in mind, let's talk about the arm triangle again, because I feel like it's been a while since we've gone over the arm triangle. So the arm triangle is a choke generally done from bottom mount or bottom moves into bottom side, because there are lots of ways you can get to this move. You could even, if you time it right, the triple threat position could actually even be an arm triangle position. You're a little far away from your opponent when you do that, so I don't like to use it that way. But ideally, you know, like if arm triangles become your thing, then arm triangles become your thing. That's what happens. You start learning a submission, you get really good at it, and you beat everybody with it. You know, that's especially if you're a competitor. With being a competitor, if you become a competitor, you always want to have like the one or two submissions that you're going to go for, because you don't want to be kind of okay at a bunch of submissions when you can be really good at one submission. And if arm triangle is that submission, great. I wouldn't suggest just one submission, maybe two. But if arm triangles are where it's at, arm triangles are where it's at. So let's talk about the arm triangle again. So I'm going to skydive on Bob here. And he's going to push, however he's going to push. He's going to push on my hips. He's going to push on my chest, whatever. So to get an arm triangle, you need to have your head on the opposite side of the arm. Okay, there are lots of opportunities for your opponent to escape that position by getting it back over to the other side. So once you get this arm in play, you can grab this arm like this. It should be game over. So you see the arm's up high like this, and I'm controlling this arm as well with this arm. So I'm sort of hugging the face and the arm right now. And if I just tried to like hold this arm with this bottom arm, and I try to bring my head over, they can bring their arm here and it'd be difficult to deal with. So what I'm going to do in this position is I'm going to start with my chin, right? So I'm just going to go, I'm going to grab, and I'm going to get this chin over to the one side. Once the chin's over, I should be pretty good. The chin's here. I'm going to push this arm over like so. Now my head's in the right spot, right? And I'm defending. Now that I've got that there, okay, I can take this, I got to get this leg over to the other side. All right, there are all kinds of ways to do that. The easiest, the least dangerous way is actually to slide it across the inside. All right, so I can throw this leg over, but in that process, I could get it caught in between his legs. All right, I don't want to do that. Let me show that angle again from this side. So if I've got this arm triangle and I'm here, and I go to throw this leg over, he can push that leg down. Now I'm in half guard. Now I can't finish this arm triangle. So the best way, I think, there are really two ways. And for me, what I would do is I would post up and drive this knee through like this until I get it over to the other side. So if you didn't see what that looks like, all right, I'm going to take, so without this arm in, I'll show you. So I'm going to tripod up on my feet, and then this leg, the knee drives through across the body to the other side. Now I'm where I want to be. Okay? So I'll show it from up to the actual like point. All right. So I'm skydiving. I'll show up in this angle so you can see the knee cross again. I'm skydiving. My opponent pushes on my chest, so I push his arm over like this. That's easy. If I need to go down here, I'm going to come underneath. I'm going to walk my hand using my elbow to keep pushing him up. Grab that arm. All right. Chin to the other side. Control the arm. Control the head. Get down low. I'm going to wrap my hands in my gable grip. So remember, that's thumbs in. Fingers go to the outside of one hand and the thumb side of the other, like so. Then I'm going to tripod up, knee inside, slide it across. Boom. Now we're at the finishing point. So how do we finish this arm triangle? All right. It requires pressure and angle. Just like every other triangle that you're going to finish, whether it be an arm triangle or a choke, because they all require that triangle shape. What you're doing with this is your head's pushing your opponent's shoulder into one carotid artery. Your arm is pushing into the other carotid artery. And the back of your arm is creating the third side, the triangle shape. All right, and that's why they call this the arm triangle. Okay? So if I'm in here and I've got this like this, all right, the shoulder's over. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to drive the arm and shoulder into his throat. Okay, and there are various ways you can do this. One of the more common ways is off of the S grip. So I went from my gable grip, I go to my S grip like this, and I'm going to drive into my opponent while I pull this way. All right, so I'm going to drive and I'm going to pull. Now, I don't want to go up the arm. It's a common misconception for people to try to go up the arm. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to squeeze all of this together, and I'm trying to get his shoulder, right? Trying to get his shoulder to push as hard as I can into his neck. If I go up the arm, I'm putting pressure at an angle away from his shoulder, which is not what I want. Okay, I want to finish him with the shoulder pressure inside the arm here, like that. Okay, if I make any space for my opponent, they're not going to choke. This isn't going to finish him. I need to push the shoulder in like this. Okay, so I'm going to S grip, and I'm going to turn my head in, and I'm going to try to push here. And if I need a little bit more, I can walk this dog like this and turn out. That's one way that I can do this. Another way that I can do this is I can put my knee on their abdomen and push them that way. So it looks like this. So I'm here and I'm here. I'm gonna go like this. Okay. You see what's happening here is I'm still cinching it in, but instead of moving my body around them, I'm pushing their body so that it cinches in to that position. Okay. So I went over the escape from this position. There's two of them. And I'm going to show the basic one again, but I'm also going to show a little more of a fun advanced one as well. Just for something for you to potentially play around with, depending on how your opponent's choking. Okay. So the first one is going to be your opponent is they're choking, they're getting ready to choke you. All right. Now most people go right to the telephone, the cell phone. So go right to this. Now this is gonna block the submission. You can see here that if I've got this cell phone, my shoulder is not going to get up near my face no matter how hard my opponent pushes, because I want this. So now my shoulder can cross and get far up into my throat area. So this is a common defense. The only problem is this doesn't actually like get you out of the situation. Sure, it stops you from being choked, but and if you've got a lot of time left, your opponent's arms are going to tire out and they won't be able to submit you. So sure, do this. There is a way to defend this. If when I choke, I do this instead of an S grip, like I showed before. If I do like a figure 4 or a rear naked choke grip, I can actually use this hand to wipe that away. So I can push this away. So my hand's here. Someone can take their hand and do this, you know. So there is that possibility, depending on how you're being choked. But this is generally an okay way to defend yourself if you got a lot of time, or even if you got short time. Like you got short time, you're winning on points, your opponent goes for this move, you think, oh, I'm gonna just chill here as your opponent tries to choke you, right? But this, the reason why I don't like this is because it's not proactive. You're not doing anything. You're just, laying here like this. All right. So what I do is this arm over here is not doing anything. Okay. So I'm actually going to take this hand and I'm going to put it against this hand and I'm going to push. And if I push with this hand, even just chest to chest, even my arms up here like this, he's not going to be able to get my hand where it needs to be. Even if he were, like let's say he pushed my arm with his body so hard that this arm went all the way over. Guess what? Check this out. My shoulder is going to hit the mat first. Right? So he's going to choke me. He pushes, my shoulder's hitting the mat. Now my hand is against hand, and there's no choke here. But I can actually push against this, and I can snake this arm out to come out to the other side and get past his head. Because I'm actually creating space as well. If I push against this, I'm creating space inside that I can get my arm up here. Once my arm's up here, now the choke is pretty much done, unless he can somehow get my arm back up here. And then all I have to do from here is turn into my opponent and try to get my arm out. Right. So this is your basic defense. Then if this is the arm being choked, it's palm to palm and you're pushing. Okay. And funny thing is that if you can create the right leverage here before you get this arm out even, there's a way that you can actually just step over your opponent and your weight will actually pull your opponent that direction. I'm going to see if I can do this with Bob. I'm going to try it one time, and if I can get it, great. If not, I will still call it a day. So that'll be that. All right. So Bob's over here. He's trying to choke me. Right, so we're like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my palms, put them to here like this, and I'm going to push. And then once I've pushed, I'm actually going to turn into him like this, and I'm going to be able to put pressure on the back of his head with my body turn, and then I'm going to be able to step over his body, because he's going to be flat on the ground here. So Bob should be flat on the ground here. Normally he's pretty flat. So Bob should be flat on the ground here. So I go boom, and I step over, and he either stays on his belly or he rolls. And if he doesn't roll, you're on his back. If he rolls, you're in side control position, and you're much better off than you were before. You've now reversed the position, points there, gotten the back potentially. That might be points, or side control, would definitely be points. So depending on how you look at it. Yeah. So I'll try to find the link for that specific reversal, and I'll post it in the description of this, so you can see the first defense, or the push defense, and the arm, getting the arm out, and the second defense sweeping over. Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you for watching. This video will be on YouTube later today, and hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Bye, everybody.